Drugs were certainly obtainable. The leaders of the two prison gangs that controlled the drug trade in the entire Florence complex were my clients when I was a paralegal on my last bid. All I had to do was ask. Maybe it was that I saw other men that were using behind the razor wire and I saw that these men do not want to change. I saw no chance for those men. I wanted to change, I wanted a better life. Entering the housing unit where I had my 21st birthday party was a solid mix of emotions for me. Homecoming. That word echoed in my ears as my senses took in the old familiar sights, smells, and sounds of the place I was made to call home for nearly 5 years. I walked straight to cell number 7 and peeked through the window. Sitting on the bunk nibbling on his favorite vanilla wafer cookies was my old friend, James McTague. Jimmy was pushing 60 years old when I arrived on the bus. He was turning his 20th year on a life sentence. No chance of parole. Never going home. I shook my old friend's hand and I was truly glad to see him again. The calendars fell away, softball season was ending and football was 4 weeks into the regular season. The days were shorter and the weather was chilly after dark. The entire summer Jimmy was not the same. His sciatica kept flaring. Till, in mid-October, he proclaimed to be better. He was seen playing handball. When I entered the gymnasium, Jimmy was running on a treadmill. I gave him a thumbs up and was glad to see him feeling better. He returned the thumbs up and I stood behind the treadmill so that my back was facing his as the treadmill spun under Jimmy's steady stride. Just as I was about to walk over to the water fountain I heard a loud thump. Before I had a chance to turn to see what the thump was, something crashed into my legs and nearly knocked me to the ground. I quickly gained my footing and turned with my fists up ready to fight. To my astonishment, on the floor in front of me was Jimmy. He passed out while running on the treadmill and when he collapsed and fell, the turning mill kicked him off and into the back of my legs. Jimmy's face was turning dark purple. His eyes were bulging out of their sockets. James' eyes were glazed over. My friend was struggling for air. I got down on my knees and put my coat under his head. Jimmy, are you okay? I knew he was not, but it was all I could think to say. I bent and put my cheek in front of his mouth to check if he was breathing. Jimmy exhaled, his body went limp, and he was no longer breathing. Jimmy, come on Jimmy, breathe. I screamed and began chest compressions and mouth to mouth. My friend was dying. There was a large crowd of inmates gathered around trying to see what was happening. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe. I was on my third round of treatment when the correctional officer, Co., in charge of the recreation department came pushing through the crowd. He was expecting there to be a fight or altercation. When he saw me performing CPR on a dying inmate he froze with the radio to call for emergency medical staff in his right hand. He was a deer in headlights. Finishing the latest round of treatment on my friend I looked at the Co and yelled, "Call a doctor man, he's dying." The Co snapped out of it and screamed into his radio, "We need medical in the gymnasium." Code red, "We have an inmate down, possible cardiac arrest, CPR is being administered." Repeat. Medical staff arrived quickly after the call was out and I was pushed aside and made to return to my housing unit. Jimmy was rushed to the hospital where he had an emergency quadruple bypass surgery. A pacemaker was also necessary. I was called into my counselor's office and informed that Jimmy was going to be okay. They said my quick actions by performing CPR on my friend were the reason Jimmy was able to live long enough to have a successful surgery. I was nervous when Jimmy's people called on me upon his release from the hospital. James McTague was sitting up in his bunk, his most trusted confidants keeping watch, as I entered the cell. Jimmy looked very old and very tired. I wanted to crawl under a rock and never come out. See, Jimmy was doing a life sentence. He had 2 beautiful daughters in Mexico. They were 5 and 6 when he was arrested. They have graduated high school and college. They have each been married, and Jimmy has several grandchildren he has never seen or will ever have the chance to get to know. The question of if I saved a man's life or did I ruin his only chance of an early release from this senseless life behind bars kept me awake at night. I sat on a chair next to Jimmy's bunk and put my head down and waited for him. I was lost for words. I felt Jimmy's frail hand on the top of my head, and in a weak voice he said, "First, thank you, Charles. Thank you for saving my life." I looked up and said, "I'm glad you pulled through, Jimmy." We locked eyes, and the weight I was waiting to come off my shoulders never came off when I saw the look in his eyes. The look left me doubtful that his thank you was genuine. I carry that weight around my shoulders still to this very day. I pray my friend Jimmy does not think ill of me.